Hi everyone, it's Miss Stokes, and today we're going to talk about knives, knife cuts, safe ways to use knives, and the knives that I use every day. I do not use every knife every single day, so I'm just going to talk about the ones that I have. Of course, here I am in my dorm room because it's COVID and I really don't have anywhere else to be. So my mom was gracious enough to send me these knives, and so I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to show you a few knife cuts, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I want to start off with the chef's knife. It's very long, it's very smooth, and what you want to remember is that this will be the most utilized knife in your arsenal. So to demonstrate, I have my cutting board here, hopefully you can see it, and I have a tomato. And so when you're starting out, bear claw, it literally looks like a claw. This is going to be the most important thing that you do, and when you're cutting, the back of the knife blade should be hitting, and so you just want to go like that, and down again, and do you see how it's a smooth kind of motion? And so obviously these are slices, and it doesn't matter what you're cutting, you want that bear claw constantly there. If you want to go thinner, do that. I'll show you how to make some cubes. It's really just going back over it. And then you have, and of course with a tomato, you can't make perfect cubes, but that's pretty good. And so that is how you use the chef's knife. Okay, next we're going to be going into the paring knife. Paring knife is probably your second most used. It's very small. It's used for coring, small knife cuts, things like that. And so it's something that you'll definitely use. And again, with all of these knives, bear claw when cutting is the most important thing that you can remember for your own safety. Next, we're going to have a serrated knife. A serrated knife can be used for cutting really thin slices of meat. I know personally, whenever I make pasta salad, I'm usually cutting meat, and so, which is something that I'm actually able to make here in the dorm with a little pasta cooker. And so what you'll do is you have to make sure that what you're using each knife for is what you're supposed to be using it for, because it can dull down the blade. Next, we have the utility knife. The utility knife is really, really long. It's like bigger than my face. It's really, really big. For this, it would be really large knife cuts. So I would imagine using this when I'm cutting like a watermelon or something. It's really strong, but it's really, really wide, and so you want something like this when you're cutting something really, really big, or maybe you're carving a turkey. Thanksgiving just happened, Christmas is coming up, so this would be something that you would use. And then next we have the, it starts with an S, it's a Sentoku knife. I had to Google this one because I've actually never used this one. This one I've never used in my kitchen, here in the dorm or at home, but this one is usually used in Japanese cuisines, but it also can kind of double as another chef's knife. It's a bit bigger, and I'll show you the difference. So it's just a smidge bigger on top. I would use this if I couldn't find my chef's knife probably, or if I was actually making Japanese cuisine, but I think it's important to, know everything that you have in your arsenal just in case you want to try something new. And then lastly, we have the bread knife, which I think is very important because I love carbs and bread. And so if you look closely, this serrated edge right here is perfect for cutting into bread. Doesn't matter what kind of bread, but all different types of bread. It's important to have this because usually if you're cutting into bread, it's very coarse on the outside and soft on the inside, and this blade is perfect for breaking through the coarse outer shell of like a hoagie bun or a loaf of bread that may not be cut, things like that, but then being very smooth when cutting into the soft layer. So that's really, really important. Okay, so now I'm going to start showing you a few knife cuts. I've got my chef's knife here, and that's what I'm going to be using. So again, you want bear claw. I like to cut off both ends of an onion before I start cutting it. And then I also like to cut it in half. It makes it a lot easier to cut. And of course, you want to be safe about it. You want to be careful. I'm going a bit quickly just so that I can show you the knife cuts. But again, we have bear claw, and we want to go cut. And for me, if I was doing, if this was a white onion and I was making something like dressing, I would cut down a little and stop, and then cut down a little more and stop, and cut down a little more and stop. And then I would do the same thing on the other side. And so you can kind of see how they've already been cut into blocks. So what you're going to want to do is find the best way to hold your knife and not cut yourself. That is the most important thing. And so then you'll go like this. And you see how they're all cut into little kind of blocks. Of course, when you take them apart, they are shredded. But you'll just keep kind of doing that. This is what I do when I am making dressing for Thanksgiving, because you have to have a lot of onion. Same thing with celery. I don't have any celery with me, or else I'd be showing you. But you want to be very careful whenever you're cutting, and then think about how deep the knife cuts go. So you can kind of see they go a little bit deeper. I could have probably gone a little bit deeper cutting the first time. Yeah, because these are more, I didn't cut deep enough. But this does help you when realizing how each particular vegetable is different. Like with the tomato, we had slices, and no matter how we cut them, we couldn't really get them into a perfect cube. So those are just a few of the knife cuts. Obviously, with more time, I could put it all together, and so this is just an intro video for you. The further we get on, we will go further into knife cuts and safety, but I really just wanted to go over the basics of what the knife was, the basic for cutting, how I wanted you to cut, just so that you could have an idea before we get started, and just really hop into it head on. Alright guys, we are now moving on to the Play-Doh part of our day, I guess. Again, we're back in my dorm room, saying that it is Corona, and you know, we are where we are. However, this is something super easy that you can make. I am someone who is very, very fidgety, and I like to mess with things, and so for me, being able to make my own Play-Doh is something that I really, really enjoy. And so I'm just going to start going through it. So this is a very simple, very easy recipe. And so what you're going to want is you're going to get 2 cups of flour. And what you're going to want to do is anytime that you are measuring something solid like this, you're going to want to take a knife and just kind of go over the top. Got a little on my desk, that's okay. And make sure that it's flat. You don't pack it, but you just ensure that it's flat. The only thing that you pack is brown sugar. Okay, same thing. We're going to go over the top. Make sure that it's flat, and that's 2 cups. And then, this is a dry measuring cup. It's very important because there is a difference between a dry and a liquid measuring cup. But we are going to talk about that in a minute. This recipe also calls for a cup of salt, which it's a lot. So we're just gonna let it go for a while, because cup of salt is a lot. Okay. There's a cup of salt. That was a lot. So, next we're going to do a cup of cold water. This is where our liquid measuring cup comes in. And so when you are measuring, which you want to make sure, and I've had this water chilled, is you want the liquid measuring cup flat. You don't want to be holding it because then it can differ, but you want it flat on your countertop. I'll see it right here. And so there are lines that I will show you, each showing, so the top line is cup, and so that's what we're looking for. So cold water, you want to be careful. Okay, so now we have a cup of cold water, and it goes in the bowl. Then we're going to have the oil, and it is a tablespoon. It's not a whole heck of a lot. Probably should have opened this before I started, but that's fine. Okay. And so I'm going to pour it over the liquid measuring cup, because you don't want to ever try and pour anything over this, your main mixture, because then if you put too much or you spill or whatever, it can cause the whole recipe to go wrong. So there we go. Ooh, close. Okay. So there is the oil, and then I opted not to do any food coloring because it tends to stain everything, and again, when you're in a dorm, you really don't want to stain anything, and so you're going to want to mix all of this together, and I will come back with the finished product. Alright guys, so now we have perfectly kneaded Play-Doh, and I mean, it obviously, you can knead it as much as you want to get the consistency that you want. It was a little bit dry, and I really wanted to make sure I got all of that flour in there, so I added just a little bit of more water. Nothing too crazy, but this is the consistency, so you want to be able to kind of push it, and it kind of leaves that little mound right there, that little indentation where my finger was. And so of course you can add food coloring to this, make it all different kinds of colors. This makes a lot, and so it's exactly like Play-Doh. You can cut into it, you can mold it, you can make it into kind of anything you want. So what I recommend and what I suggest is, while you are working in your groups, really work together. This is something that it's very simple to make, but it's something that is very fun to make. So I really want you guys to think about how you can come together to make this, you know, in deciding what color do you want it to be. Do you want to separate them and make them different colors? You know, ask questions. If you think that it's too dry, ask one of your partners, do you think that it needs water? If it's too wet, hey, do you think we should add some more flour? Your teammates and your friends are your most important ally in the kitchen. Helps keep you accountable, but also helps you ask questions to your peers and make you feel like you can really ask them these kinds of questions, and because more than likely if you have those questions, they have those questions too. So that'll be all for today, and then our next segment we will be going into something a little bit different, but here's the twist, it does have to deal with dorm food. So I'll see you later. Hello everyone, so we are back with another video, another clip. So today we are still in my dorm room. Hi, how are ya? I'm over here. But I wanted you to actually be able to really see what I'm doing. And then we're going to take a little virtual tour. We're going to make this tour mobile, just right behind me to my microwave. But I wanted to start off by showing you how I make this. This is going to be a brownie in a mug. And so I'm just going to kind of tell you what all is in it. I already, as you can see, have everything measured out. I really wanted to focus on microwave safety today, but I did want to go through the actual recipe, and then in the class you will be going and doing it yourself. So I didn't want to spoil all the fun for you, but I will be telling you what is in the entire recipe, and then we will talk about microwave safety when you put everything together. So what is in this is you're going to have 1/4 cup of flour. You're going to have 3 tablespoons of sugar. You're going to want 3 of these. Then you're going to have 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. You're going to have 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Then you're going to have 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, which I have here in this bag that I will measure out. Then you also want 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we will be using water. I already have it measured out, but you can also use canola oil, vegetable oil, or coconut oil. You would want 2 tablespoons of either this or 1/4 cup of water. So for our class, we're going to be using water. And then you'll want 1 tablespoon of little chocolate chips, and so I'll measure it out. But just regular semi-chocolate chips will be perfect. So I'm going to put this all together, and then we will get into the main part of the video. So here we are at the microwave. It's just in my dorm room. What is important to remember is that when you are putting something in the microwave, you want to put it in and you want to make sure that there's nothing else in there. There's not any more, there's no foil or anything like that that could cause any problems. Like foil, plastic, things like that. I was using a plastic spoon. You want to make sure that you're very, very careful with all of that kind of stuff. Okay, y'all, so my mug is in the microwave with the brownie. We are going to set it to 1 minute, 10 seconds. What they talk about is to make sure to watch it, make sure that it doesn't get dry. If you put it in there too long, it will get dry. But I've done this before, and it's really, really delicious. So I will let this time kind of go, and I will show you the end product. But please just remember that when you're using the microwave, to please be safe, use everything correctly, don't put anything in there that isn't supposed to be in there, and make sure to check that everything that you're using is microwave safe. And hello! We are about to end this video, but I wanted to show you the final product. This is so cool. It's like they say, if you have a good recipe, you can make anything. So I actually was able to make the brownie, and it's like perfect. It's, you know, it looks so delicious. Let's see. Is it light and this fluffy? It is perfect. It's perfectly cooked all the way through. See? That is delicious. So that kind of concludes how to make a brownie in a microwave. But just a few extra things when dealing with the microwave that I want you guys as students to remember is that, like I said earlier, your peers are the most important things, the most important tool that you have. And so if you're ever questioning whether or not you should use something in a microwave, put something in a microwave, I want you to ask them, ask me. I don't want you to ever be afraid to ever ask any questions. Again, just as a reminder, you want to make sure that everything that you use is microwave safe. Obviously, this plastic fork was not in the microwave with my mug. This mug is microwave safe, and it says it on the bottom. In most mugs, most ceramics, anything that you use, it will say on the bottom whether or not it's microwave safe. And you definitely want to be sure of that, because any chemicals that they use, anything like that, could be used in this. So I just want you to be sure, be safe, and, you know, happy baking.